Right. And I knew how hard it is to hold it yourself, so once I got a photographer, I was so grateful. I was like, okay.
See, now we can just fix it in post.
So then when I'm raising up here, then they see it. Although you go home. Not a chance. What's going on there? Look at that.
These up here, because we want to photograph them. They're going to be sent electronically to your office.
Thank you.
Yeah. And the reason you'll find out that we didn't say anything earlier is because there was an indictment. It had not been unsealed. There's a criminal penalty if you reveal anything before it's unsealed.
Gotcha, gotcha. Thank you. I can do it.
Hi.
Hey, how you doing? Hey, boy, what's happening? How's everything going? Always well.
say Detroit help ready up
Saw
in
your
Hawaii.
guys' photos. in the
Yeah,
profile.
she's always a pleasure to run. I think you were at daddy-daughter breakfast in school.
Were we ever? Yes.
They have them back there. Can you email them?
I have just opened it. Taylor came right on. She saw him. She wrote on. I said microwave. But yes, send it to me.
Okay.
Sorry, what'd you do this morning?
What's that?
What'd you do this morning?
Nothing. As far as where they go besides here?
Are you working?
Yeah.
Oh. So that means.
That's why. I mean, I came in at 8.
Oh, gotcha. I thought maybe you were AM shift. Yeah.
everyone.
Good morning.
I don't know what we can do. I'll move these chairs out of the way, Tommy.
You want to say something to me in advance, sir?
Try as best you can. I probably shouldn't have printed so big. Print is huge. Yeah. I printed too big, but I'll find it. I want to thank everyone for coming, but before I get started, let's have everyone introduce themselves, starting to my left and your right. Just introduce yourself, spell your last name, and where you're from.
Lieutenant Christopher Cole from EPD, COLE.
David Gellius, Special Agent in charge of the FBI in Detroit, GELIOS. Police Officer Thomas Verkat from Detroit Police, ZBERKOT.
James Craig, CRAIG, Detroit Police.
They know how to spell that, Chief.
Just in case.
I'm Rob Moran from the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office.
Detroit Police Officer Lori Dillon, LORIDILLON.
Special Agent Christopher Panisi, FBI, PENNISI.
Thank you. I want to start out this morning by doing something a little different. I want to start out by saying that it's obvious from watching the coverage, and I don't watch much news, watching the coverage last night and this morning, that someone who knew at least something about this press conference today has forgotten a very few serious things. Like in a case where a grand jury activity has happened, that anyone that discloses information from the grand jury is guilty of a misdemeanor, punishment by imprisonment of not more than a year. Forgotten that it must be unsealed, as it was just within an hour ago, a few minutes ago actually, before anything can be discussed. Forgotten that in this case, or cases like this, that you can't just call up one's regular press contact and leak the information and tell them without being subject to a very serious charge and possible jail time. And forgotten that we will also prosecute anyone that does this when it comes to a grand jury. That's how hallowed and secret these proceedings are supposed to be, that there are very serious consequences for anyone that divulges anything before a grand jury indictment is unsealed. And I thought it very important to mention that, so important that we also put it on the last page of your materials there, reminding you, because we don't do grand juries that much, and we're doing a lot more of them now because of the crime problem that we're trying to solve. But I just want to remind all of you in the press and all of you listening that simply we cannot talk about anything in a grand jury indictment or anything surrounding the proceedings until the indictment, if there is one, has been unsealed. The indictment in question, as I said, was just unsealed, moments ago. And that being said, as all of you know, on March the 5th, 2015, Federal District Court Judge Terrence Berg was shot outside his home in the University District section of Detroit during an armed robbery attempt. An investigation has ensued and directly led to the investigation of a series of armed robberies and home invasions that had been occurring in the University District and neighboring Detroit neighborhoods. 13 cases, as a matter of fact, were linked in a crime pattern, mainly targeting senior citizens who were assaulted and or robbed in their homes. This time spanned between January of 2015 and through May of 2015. These investigations were conducted by the Detroit Police Department, the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office Special Investigations Unit, and the FBI Violent Task Force. Now, I have to stop here and really commend the Detroit Police Department here. Chief Craig will tell you that I do not hesitate to tell him when I think an investigation has been shoddy and needs more work. But marvelous time and energy and time-sensitive investigative work was done in this case. Many witnesses were talked to and 4 defendants were identified. Just outstanding work in this case and many others from the Detroit Police Department here. I also have to mention the assistant prosecuting attorneys in my office here as well. There were mountains of legal documents, search warrants, and other type of legal work that had to be done that was researched, written, filed, and argued. And one of our motions was over 150 pages long. This is extraordinary intensive work that was done by the lawyers in my case pre-warrants. This is required in many of our cases, work that not is always seen or recognized, but work all the more that should be done, and not to mention the work that's done when a grand jury is involved. And of course, we were assisted by some of our federal partners, one which is here today, and I want to thank the FBI Violent Crimes Task Force for their help and dedication as well. Some of the related cases are detailed in the press release that I talked about, some of the 13, not all of them, and there have been 3 defendants convicted to date, and I want to just highlight a couple of them. You'll see number 1 on your materials, People versus Timothy Russell, is a date that occurred on April the 1st of 2015. It was in the evening on Washburn Street in Detroit. The charges in that case were armed robbery, 2 counts of armed robbery, 3rd count of home invasion in the 1st degree, felon in possession of a firearm, and felony firearm. We also had a case with People versus Kevin Smith, Timothy Russell, and an unnamed other defendant. This also happened in April on tax day on the 15th in West Hilldale Street in Detroit, and similar charges were had in that particular case as well. You'll also see on the third page of your release the documentation of 2 other cases that we have already had convictions on. Kevin Smith, who was just arraigned a little while ago after the indictment was unsealed, was released on parole on December the 14th, 2014, and he was arraigned a few moments ago on the following charges. Count 1, conspiracy to commit armed robbery. Count 2, armed robbery. Count 3, assault with intent to murder. These are Judge Berg's charges. Assault with intent to murder, Judge Berg. 4, felon in possession of a firearm, and the 5th count of felony firearm, possession of a firearm during the commission or attempt commission of a felony. He was given a bond just moments ago of $500,000 Catholic surety, and the calendar conference in this case will be on January the 11th of 2016. He was also sentenced this morning to a term of 13 to 30 years plus 2 years in prison on an armed robbery and felony firearm conviction that came out of this investigation. So a lot of work that was done in this case. It took a lot of time. The task force, the prosecutor's office, and the Detroit Police Department hit the ground running, and there has been continuous work on this case done, as you can see, since March 5th of this year when this first occurred. Chief Craig?
Thank you. And let me just start out by first saying how appreciative I am of the leadership under Kym Worthy and the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office, certainly our work and continued work with the FBI. But I must say, it's these kind of coordinated efforts that really make a difference. And when you look at the work that we've done this year, we're talking about a steady decline in crime. And let's talk about the crime of robbery as an example. So when you look at our stats year to date, we're sitting, as of today, on a 21% reduction in robbery. And if you go back to 2013 and comparing our stats, we're at a 36% reduction. So why do I bring that up? When you look at these violent predatory suspects that in the span of a short 4 months committed 13 robberies, that's a problem. It's a problem, and as you know, with this steady decline, we know we've gotten the right suspects. But as I continue, there's 2 that I really want to give special attention to, 2 of our investigators. Can I be joined right now with Officers Lori Dillon and Tom Zaberkot? If you could just flank me. I just want to thank both for their tireless work. When you hear me say relentless follow-up, attention to duty, commitment, these 2 investigators from Detroit Police Department exemplify that. We're talking about hours, not just hundreds of hours, but thousands of hours. And I just want to personally acknowledge both of them for a job well done. And that's all I have to say at this point.
Good morning. As the newcomer to this group, when I was named the special agent in charge of Michigan several months ago, I, like many from the outside looking in, associated Detroit and the area around Detroit as an area with a high level of violence. A high level of violent crime that warrants the priority attention of the FBI here locally and all our local and state partners. The attack on Judge Berg really proved that violence is very non-discriminating in this area, And I'm just proud to sit here with the partners today and be able to join in this announcement of the indictment of this young man. Thank you.
I'll take a few questions, if you have any.
Prosecutor Worthy, the work continued to arrest these three, and then the information started coming out about the Judge Berg shooting. Is that how it's being laid out?
It all was part and parcel of the investigation, from home invasions and armed robberies and other activity that started in January of this year through May, when Judge Berg was, what happened when he was shot. And so, again, it's all interconnected, it's all intertwined, and I really can't point to one or two or even three things that led directly to it. It was a long series of long, arduous work, investigation, legal work, and work of this partnership.
Madam Prosecutor, on that particular day, there were two suspects, as was mentioned in the release, that came to the door. Smith is apparently, according to you, the one who pulled the trigger, according to investigators. This other person is cooperating right now. Do we hope to get even more information about perhaps other robberies as well in the area, or do you think you've kind of gleaned all that?
I'm not going to comment at all on what we are doing with our cooperating witnesses, but let's just say that investigations of like activity continue.
Any federal charges because of the shooting of a federal judge?
It has to be a shooting of a federal judge, if I'm correct, during the course or in the course of his duties.
Okay.
So these are state charges.
Prosecutor, how did you crack the case?
I'm sorry?
How did you crack the case?
Again, it was the investigative efforts of the Detroit Police Department and with the legal assistance from my office and also with Violent Crimes Task Force that just did an investigation. It's like you would imagine. We get information that leads to other information that leads to other information. There were many, many search warrants, many other types of legal proceedings, and an inordinate amount of work in front of the grand jury.
Did Smith, did he confess or did he mention anything that would be used in the prosecution at all?
Again, we're not going to comment on any of the details of the investigation. That'll come out during a trial, if there is a trial, or any hearings associated with these proceedings. But right now, I'm not going to comment on any specifics, especially since we have a cooperating witness.
Madam Prosecutor, were all of them arrested in one particular event? Was there one crime where they were then arrested?
No, it was an ongoing investigation that tied everything together. I don't want to make it sound simplistic because it surely was not
So it wasn't
simplistic.
an ending of a final
It still
robbery or
continues.
home invasion?
No, it still continues today.
Madam Prosecutor, would you mind if we ask the Chief one question?
Sure.
Quick? Chief Craig, you heard, of course, the judge and also his wife, even in the days following this crime that took place, defend the city of Detroit and talk pretty emphatically about how much they still love the city. It is that spirit, I imagine, that you applaud.
No doubt.
At this particular time when you're looking at a crime issue.
No doubt. You know, the city has really turned around. It's moving in the right direction. As I like to oftentimes say, I can't wave a flag of success, progress, absolutely. Detroit's no different than any other large city. You can look across America. A lot of major cities right now are grappling with increasing violent crime, but we're seeing a decline, and it's that spirit of Detroiters that's really working closely with our police department to get this job done.
When you see Judge Berg and what, you know, in the days following the shooting, when someone was shot in the knee, you'd think they would be a little upset or a little angry. It seems as though he was pretty spirited in his support
Very spirited.
for the police department of the city.
Absolutely. No doubt. Thank you.
Anything else?
Do we expect more arrests?
Maybe. We'll see.
Can I just visit, on the 13, are they in one area in the University District, or are they just all over? Or is there
It's mainly in the University District and surrounding communities.
Okay.
So the same geographic area of the city.
In that same time period, at large, in a whole number, how many robberies occurred, like the 13? Not just from those, but across the board.
I can't answer that. Maybe the chief can. I don't know that we all have the
You
answer
know,
to that.
again, as the prosecutor pointed out, we are still actively conducting investigations. There may be more that will come out later, but at this point, the ones that we're sure of are 13. And then, you know, I have to say, as I pointed out in my remarks, I mean, we've seen a steady decline in robberies, and it wouldn't be these suspects were predatory. They were very active, and we're talking about a short span of 4 months. That's a key piece.
Chief, is there any evidence that they knew eventually that they had shot a federal judge?
I'm not going to go into the details of that.
But they continued on after the judge shot?
I'm not going to go into that.
Was Kevin Smith involved in all 13 robberies?
I think it's safe to say I probably shouldn't comment on that. Let me just leave that right there.
Madam Prosecutor, is this a game, organized game?
I think that when you begin to hear things that come out in a court of law, if there's a trial, you can draw your own conclusion to that. Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming.
All right.